Today, I want to talk about the denial of the far right and the incoherence and irrationality of their political philosophy. So, there's been a real resurgence of the far right in the last few decades from America, Europe, and Asia. It's really gone global. And this is essentially a crisis in capitalism. The poor are getting poorer, the wealthy are getting wealthier, and there's real problems. In the UK, for example, outside of London, our economy is comparable to Mississippi, the poorest state in America. Outside of London, fairly poor. And again, you see real issues with housing, infrastructure, healthcare, good jobs, low wages, high cost of living. People are having a hard time. So, what happens? Well, like in 1930s Germany, you have a financial crash in 1929, massive poverty, massive unemployment, and you have certain people prey on that. And we're seeing it again. History really does repeat itself. And in the last at least last few decades, you've seen that increase to the far right, specifically in the last 10 years, with Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, AfD in Germany, Marine Le Pen, Golden Dawn in Greece, and they redirect real concern, real hatred, real anger at the system towards the most vulnerable people in society, forming that us versus them mentality where we're the native, real, blood and soil owners of this land, and it's outsiders, these hordes, invaders, flooding our borders and taking over our country. And this is far right ideology. It's become mainstream. It's become normalized in many ways in the public space with figures like Nigel Farage and Brexit. It really has. The Conservatives have become more far right. And with social media, Facebook, YouTube, it's almost the Overton window has shifted to the right. It objectively has. The way George Bush talked about immigration, the way Clinton did, we are so worlds apart from where we were 20, 30 years ago. And again, it's the crisis of capitalism, us versus them. And social media obviously has amplified this massively. It's very easy to take anecdotal situations and make them seem bigger than they are, where you look at the data, actually, it's more complicated and often completely different to one story of a Muslim doing something naughty. So it's incoherent because how do you sell this? How do you sell fascism? How do you sell this us versus them mentality in a way that attracts people and makes it normal and, you know, not what we saw in 1930s Germany? Well, in 1930s Germany, Hitler called himself the National Socialists. At the time, socialism, communism, and trade unions were having a big boom. And he thought, if you can't beat them, join them. And we can use this as leverage to get into power, pretend to care about the workers, talk a lot about workers' rights and power, and how Jews, very subtly, there's an enemy within. And then what happened when he got into power? Who were the first people to be killed? Well, it was the socialists, the communists, the intellectuals, the trade unionists, trans people, and he privatized the industry and very much did not have socialism. So, how do you sell it today? Well, it's a lot harder now because people are aware of history. They're pretty informed on fascism in the 20th century, Mussolini, Hitler, Franco in Spain. And most people know this is deplorable. They see the concentration camps. They see the footage. They know the history. You don't have to know much about World War II to know that the Holocaust is something that somewhere we should never go again. But the far right is resurging and they're doing well and they are gaining support across the world. So how do they sell themselves? Well, you can't be honest. You can't be say, yes, I'm a fascist. Some do. There's very few people that are actually ideologically fascist who will admit to being racist, pure racist. Very few. So it makes it harder now to detect who these people are, because they say, oh, I'm not racist. I've just got legitimate concerns. And this is where the alarm bells should start ringing here. Because often when people talk about reducing immigration, the crime that's associated with immigration, they just don't want trans people in their schools and education. Often they use dog whistles. It's more indirect. But often a key component of it is completely denial about being far right. And then having far right talking points. And then saying, and this is pretty much what you'll get, this kind of triad of denial, being far right, having far right objectively talking points and philosophy about anti-immigration and blood and soil and England is for England and all these talking points. And then you have always, when you watch interviews, people talk about this. They always talk about, I'm not racist. I've got nothing against these people. I'm not a hateful person. I've got black friends. I've got trans. It's always the same. They always have to caveat with that. Why? Why would you have to say this? I don't have to say this. When I talk about a video, talk about a topic, I never have to say, I've got nothing against them. I have conservative friends. I've got nothing against conservatives. I clearly have got problems with conservatives. I'm honest with that. I'm not going to lie. But they can't be honest about it because optically it just doesn't work. They can't. Some people are, but very few people. And it's incoherent. It's essentially a massive form of cognitive dissonance where they simultaneously think that their concerns are real, that they believe the lies about immigration and how somehow one immigrant commits crime, therefore that somehow makes all immigrants criminals, which is the story. The stories they're fed every day through GB News, Talk TV, online, YouTube massively now. And being fed that constant bombardment of like immigrants, trans people, Muslims, you start to believe it. And you go, oh yeah, everything wrong with this country, the reason why the high streets are dead, the reason why crime is going up, even though it's not, it's actually gone down massively in the last 30 years. But the public perception is crime's going up. Yes, in your experience, you may be watching news constantly. We've got that constant feed of news. So yeah, it seems like crime's going up, but it's going down. And they're constantly scared. They're constantly fearful of this other who's coming for them, be it trans people, immigrants, Muslims, leftists, whoever it is. And they have to simultaneously say they've not got problems with these people. Okay, well, if you haven't got a problem with them, why can't they live in the UK? Well, because you have to ask that question. What's your problem with immigrants? I ask this a lot. And they say, oh, I've not got a problem with immigrants. Well, you clearly have. You are lying, and they have to lie. Fascism is based on lies. And racism is. It's lying about that somehow the colour of your skin or superficial elements of your anatomy somehow inform your intelligence, your worth as a person. And it's the same with fascism. It's kind of like, it really does simplify problems of like any social problem. It's down to this person. It's the immigrant. Everything. If we just to get rid of immigrants, everything would be fine. We'd be living in a land of milk and honey. You'll have smiling kids on the streets. You'll have old people walking down the streets wearing designer clothes, and everything would be amazing. But reality is, if we were to stop migration or reduce it to net, our economy would tank. You would have real problems because then when you start to ban academic freedom, you're in a dark place. And this is what Reform want. They want to ban critical race theory, which is a form, all it is an academic lens of history. That's all it is. It's history. Basically history. They want to ban it. How dark is that? We don't talk about it though, because it's, to them, it's just normal to ban stuff that you just academic, frameworks that you don't like. No, it's not. It's really not normal. Maybe in 1930s Germany, but certainly not today in the UK. So there's constant denial and constant caveat in that they're not racist. I'm not racist. I've got legitimate concerns. And then the concerns are based on someone's race or religion. And they talk about freedom of religion. That's a big one. Freedom of religion. They don't believe in it except for themselves. And it's the same with immigration too. They don't actually believe in freedom of movement except for themselves and their family. Like Nigel Farage, his ex-wife was from Germany. His kids speak German, but he doesn't want to hear other languages on public transport. This is what we have to deal with. It's a different rule for them. That's the thing. For fascists, Hitler could do what he wants. He could, whatever he got up to in his household. But the degeneracy of trans people and homosexuals and Jewish people, no, we have to nip that in the bud. But they can do what they want. The people in power. And we see this Farage. All the gifts that he's got, the training from far-right groups in America, £30,000 worth of free flights, stuff we don't even know about. I'm just asking questions here, as he would say. So, fascism inherently needs denial. You need to deny it. You need to say, no, I'm not far-right. I just have legitimate concerns. I just don't want these people in my country. But they can't be on. It's all euphemism as well. Never direct. It's never direct what they believe. Constant euphemism. The country's changing. It's not what it was. England has changed. Yes. Change is unavoidable. Change in science, like, it's inevitable. Change is constant. And you either fight it and go, oh, well, I want an ideal of 1950s England where everyone was white and there wasn't any crime and everything was great. There was crime. There was more crime in 1950s England, more murder, more domestic violence. I assume people got away with quite a few murders then with the technology we have now. And how do you fight this? Because I can't argue a fascist or a racist or someone on the far right. They don't care about facts. We live in a post-truth era. Facts they really will not. I could give them all the evidence about immigration, all the ethical arguments about freedom. Why should people not be allowed to live on one bit of God's great earth? But it wouldn't change their mind because they're not thinking in terms of evidence. They're just thinking in terms of like feelings and emotions and being told a story, a great grand story of good and evil and us versus them. And by getting rid of these people, we'll be happy. Our people will be free and we'll have freedom of speech again and we can say what we want and we won't get accused of being racist for our racist views. So it's impossible to have a logical argument with these people based on evidence because they don't care about it. Again, we literally do live in a post-truth era. I saw a video from someone I'd say was far right, a YouTuber, British YouTuber. Well, he's Welsh, a Welsh guy. And he said, I don't like the term misinformation. Interesting, isn't it? I don't like the term misinformation. I think that's fascinating because that's like saying, I don't like the term lies. That's what a liar would say. Or don't like the term lies. I call them untruths or just not the truth. What the hell? The fact that he said that was so kind of wild to me because I think on an unconscious level, this guy isn't very clever. He knows that he is being fed misinformation on some level. He knows that conservatives on average are way more likely to buy into fake news, misinformation, fabrication, lies than people on the left are, because we're more likely to double check, look at the data, and actually go, wait a minute, is this true? Is what I'm being told true? Conservatives aren't. They're more trusting of authority, and we've got data to prove that. They are more likely to believe what authority figure says to them. Leftists aren't. We will question. We're like, no, actually, no. I want to know the truth. Where's the data? So we live in very dangerous times where people don't like the terms misinformation. They don't have evidence to back up the points. And driven by the politics of hate, us versus them. Simple solutions to complex, massively complex economic realities. And how do you sell this? Well, you just got to lie and say, you're not far right. That's what they do. I'm not far right. I'm not racist. I've got black friends. So that's all I have for you today. I'll see you in the next video.